Well, welcome to our next YouTube channel podcast. Real excited to have Grayson Vandegrift on with us tonight. Grayson is currently back in his role as mayor of Midway, Kentucky, and he's also working with CultureWise as an implementation manager. Just want to give you guys a little background on him, then I can see him smiling ear to ear there. I'm going to let him kick in here, but he is basically he attended the Sayre School, which is an incredible high school here in Lexington, Kentucky. And then he went to Wittenberg University and attended there and the University of Kentucky. So I'm just excited to have Grayson on this evening with our Champion Mindset YouTube podcast on our channel. So welcome to the podcast, Grayson Vandegrift.
Appreciate it, Tyrone. Thanks for having me on. Excited to be here.
Well, we're excited to have you here tonight, and we're looking forward to discussing your passion for Midway and for Woodford County. Give us a little rundown kind of your background a little bit, and then we'll touch a little bit on the family, and then from there we'll probably get into your community service. What got you there? Okay.
Yeah. So I actually grew up in Scott County, so I grew up in two different parts of Scott County. I grew up mostly in Ironworks Estates, which is just over the Woodford County border. So we grew up close to Woodford County. For a little bit of my childhood, we lived in the middle of Georgetown, up in closer to downtown Georgetown. So growing up a Scott County guy, I mean, I was a little bit jealous of Woodford County, frankly, growing up. It's always kind of been known as, I don't know, just a cut above. I'm sorry, I'm just going to say it's a cut above everybody else. And so when I did get more involved in the Midway community and Woodford County, it was almost like I want to be one of them. I want to be one of them. Not that I'm abandoning my Scott County roots, but there's something special about this place. And of course, my heart's in Midway. And hey, look, I grew up, great parents, great sister. Grew up loving sports. Played basketball and baseball. I mean, just about everything. Probably the only guy ever to rupture his pancreas in a high school basketball game. I'm proud of that distinction.
Wow, man,
really.
Well, you weren't playing Woodford County, were you, when that happened?
No, we did play Woodford in my sophomore year. We beat Woodford. I don't know that we played in my junior or senior year. So yes, I have to admit that Sayre did beat Woodford every now and then. I don't think that would happen these days. But no, I did. I was junior year, a weird high school injury playing for Sayre. I ruptured my pancreas in a basketball.
Who was your all's coach over there, Grace?
It was actually Gene Kirk that year. So Gene Kirk, he retired at Woodford.
Yeah.
He came out of retirement and coached a few years at Sayre, and I had the pleasure.
Did you play with him?
Yeah. Now the year I got hurt, he wasn't there yet. But my senior year, I had three coaches in 3 years, unfortunately. Okay. And my senior year was Gene Kirk, and he coached for a few more years after I graduated. Okay. He was great. I love Gene. One of the best coaches I ever had. Yeah. Obviously a Woodford County legend. So even before I lived in Woodford County, I had some connections to Woodford. But yeah, he was my coach my senior year of high school. And
that's awesome. Yeah, I got a connection with Coach. He was my 8th grade homeroom teacher. I had him at Woodford High School, and then I played basketball for 2 seasons. But ended up being all-state track cross country, and I love the basketball. I mean, I dreamed about playing it the whole time when I didn't play my last 2 years, but I ended up getting a scholarship offer. But Gene was really instrumental in my background with basketball. He attended all the I practiced with the varsity some, got to know Gene. He's a great guy. So just funny what a small world it is.
Small world. He's as good as it gets. So and then. Yeah, I went to college. Didn't really know what my direction in life was, though. And out of college a little bit, like we oftentimes are in our early 20s, and a little bit directionless. But finally, what it came down to is what kind of got me involved in Midway in Woodford County was my dad and I decided to do this crazy thing and open up a restaurant in downtown Midway. And I had a little experience with managing retail, and and in restaurants, but we probably didn't know enough to get into it. But you know what? We learned as we went, and we kind of converted what was a cafe at the time. People might remember Quirk Cafe. We bought Quirk Cafe in 2007. Over time, we just wanted to try and make it a little bit more profitable. So we wanted to have kind of full service, day and night, have alcohol. My dad is a retired builder, so he really built that bar that's now in the basement of Gibson's.
Really? That was the one you had? I love that bar down there, man. That's awesome. Yeah.
It's like Cheers, right? You walk down the stairs.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, JP's got Gibson's there. I love Gibson's. Yeah,
doing great. He's doing great.
Part of that at one point. Okay.
Yeah, it's a great place. I mean, we did it for 8 years, 2007, 2015. Okay. We were all kind of burnt out with it, frankly. and somewhere along the way is when I got into the public service. It was along
Okay.
that way. So, it's funny how things happen, things fall into place.
Yeah.
Again, growing up a Scott County guy, I felt like I was 1,000 miles from Woodford County. And then now, I'm
No,
happy
that's
I'll be.
just so cool, man. I just think it's awesome. Well, living in Ironworks, my Tom Pisick, 1980. See, Tom, I'm going to get this wrong, but he's in the 80s, graduated Woodford County. He's my brother-in-law, and I think it was 87 he graduated, but he's over in Ironworks, lives over in the back end over there. But it's a
Yeah.
small world. That's only a rock throw over the
Oh, yeah,
interstate there, man. I mean, you're
it is.
basically a Midway guy, growing up.
Well,
Actually.
it's funny. I tried to play that up as politicians do when I was first running for office.
They didn't buy that at Midway, did they?
Yeah,
No,
no, they were like, "You ain't from here." Yeah, yeah.
exactly. Oh, that's so
But
fun.
they accepted me in time, which is great about this place. That's what I love about Midway.
Well, you got to really meet a lot of the community, being in that restaurant business those several years with your
Yeah.
dad. You guys, I mean, your customers were a lot of Woodford County and Scott County because they all kind of
Oh
meet
yeah.
there. And
Oh yeah.
Midway, well, I get a kick out of Midway because I went to Midway University and graduated there in 2000. I'm one of the first guys to get a degree at Midway because they
Yeah.
let us in at night.
Yeah.
But I didn't, growing up in Midway, I always thought, man, that's way out there, as a kid. And then as I got older, I just started, I went to school out there. It took me a little longer to get through my college. I was 40 when I got out, but worked in town there at Texas Instruments and went to night school and worked through all that process. But I actually fell in love with Midway. I mean, it's kind of like when I'm out there, I'm so at peace because
Yeah.
I did a lot of praying out there when I was going to college, and and on that Midway campus, I want to say there's no better campus in the U.S., man, as far as just the beauty of that racehorse farms all around, and the people, and just you got time to think when you get out and drive Midway Road, with Lanes End Farm and all those farms coming back to sales. It's so funny because growing up, we always competed. Midway, Mortonsville, none such. It was like, and I knew all the Midway boys and played softball, basketball with all of them. The Pennies and Carters and Crawfords, just to throw some out there, a bunch of them. And I know Bob Rouse really well. Just a lot of people from down there. And as I got older, man, I've just gravitated to Midway. I'm there. I catch myself there every week.
I
The
understand.
fountain. I love to go walking out to the cemetery. I'm kept my camera. I can't keep it out of my pocket. I'm snapping photos. It's just something breathtaking about Midway. It captures your heart. And I sense that in you, being right
Oh yeah.
over the bridge. And that's one of the reasons I want to get you on is just to kind of see how you kind of, caught yourself gravitated to that community.
Yeah. Yeah. I still remember the feeling I got the first time I saw downtown.
Yeah.
It just something about it. I was like, this something's different. It's just
Yeah, it
special.
just pulls you in, doesn't it? Yeah, it's just
Well, it really does pull you in, and it's just, and you sort of do step back in time a little bit, but at the same time, it's still sleek and modern looking. And like you said, what's cool about Midway, and I always think about this, think about all these visitors we get who are seeing it for the first time. It's that same feeling we got when we saw it the first time. And it's almost like you get to relive it through them vicariously. But you're right, Tyrone, whether it's the university, whether it's the cemetery, whether it's just walking around the streets around
yeah,
town, there's such a beauty to it that, and look, in general, we live in a beautiful place, right? In central
right.
Kentucky and Woodford County, but
Yeah,
Midway is just a gem, and that's why it's worth preserving. Like, it's like we were talking about off the camera. We don't want it to grow too fast. We don't want to lose what makes this place special,
yeah.
right? And what's so cool about Midway too, historically, it's just been always a kind of forward-thinking place.
It is, man. They're really unified over there. They've got
Yeah.
something going on in Midway. That historical. I know Gary Bush and Greg Bush. I went to school with both of them. And I know Greg is really invested in that
Oh
Midway
yeah.
Historical Society team. I've been in there. I come down about every month or two to take a tour just to see what's going on because I go back to Woodford Historical and I'm like, you guys got to get it going in here. Midway's blowing it out down there. But it's just amazing to watch the commitment of the community and that task force and how
Yeah.
they work together. That's just one
Yeah.
other element. It's the people, in Midway that kind of drive and steer that ship, and I know you're engaged, you're a council member there, 13, 14, 14, 15. So I've noticed somewhere.
Right.
So,
Uh-huh.
you've been to those meetings and being mayor, you're, I'm sure you guys have your monthly or weekly or bi-weekly or whatever.
Right.
And then there's just a lot going on with that. But, I'm going to run down through here. And when you hear this, just give me a little feel of how Midway reflects in these areas in your mind.
Okay.
If you
Sure.
don't mind, I'm throwing you on
Sure.
a curveball here, but
No, not at all. I love it.
the Midway University, I'm sorry, the Midway Historical Society. How do you see that in your mind? How do you see that and how that impacts the community?
Well, I think going back to what you said, it's about the pride people take in this place. And I think that's what's maybe unique about Midway for a small town. It has a big feel because of the way people take pride in it. And,
Right.
how many towns our size could have a museum like we have,
Uh-huh.
and we do that with help from the city. We give, we give them the space. We think it's that important because, the more that you showcase the community's history, I think the more you are setting your city up for success in the future because
Absolutely.
it
Yeah.
takes pride in knowing where you come from to see where you're going. And those are again, think about this. Those are volunteers who just give tons of time every year in
Unbelievable.
curating that and
Yep.
making it look great. And it's mostly visitors who go there, right? I mean,
You're right.
our citizens visit it, but it's mostly visitors coming through there. So they're doing this for people they have no idea who they are, where they're coming from, but it's that important to them to be that great face when we come into Midway. So those people are just our heroes of mine, frankly, Ty. They are the time they put in this amazing museum. And if you're living in Midway and you haven't seen your own museum yet, I really encourage you to go check it
Oh, it's
out
a
sometime.
beautiful museum. I
Amazing.
mean, they've segmented it early, midway,
Mhm.
middle, as time is, they've got timelines in there and they go all the way back from the ancestry, early pioneers that came to Midway.
Yeah,
And the railroads came in there
yeah,
in the 1840s and put the city together and the first, multiple cemeteries and they've merged cemetery. They've done everything. Midway tries to do it the right way.
yeah,
They're progressive in my mind. I mean, they're out front of everything. They take, you know, no matter where you're at on what spectrum of politics, what I love about Woodford County and Midway is we do it together.
yeah.
We're open minded. We know we're not everybody's going to agree on everything, but when you try to keep people in the center, and that's what I love about Midway and Versailles is that that's why I got James Kay and Emily Downey on here, and I got Mayor Troggett, former Mayor Troggett, right? We were at his roast together, you and I.
Yeah.
And
Oh
by the
yeah.
way, you did a
I
hell
gave
of a
him one.
job roasting him the other day. And what I love about is how we've modernized, but we've kept it.
Yeah.
We've got that old feel to it.
Yep.
Which is a beautiful thing. And
It
so, and
is.
that's where you kind of see the Midway Historical Society as just being a pillar of the community,
Yep.
very proud of the people, and they take a lot of pride, and they welcome people to the community, and they love their history, and they also love the community.
And as well as anybody who haven't been an athlete yourself that there's one thing to say that you who you are. It's another thing to show who you are. And that's what I love about
Absolutely.
Midway is that we don't sit there and talk about it all day. We just do it, right? We
You
get it
do,
done.
man.
And
Yeah, I
we
saw
do
you
it.
out there doing a video the other day. Dude had a camera. I said, "Hey, I didn't try to interrupt. He was trying to get the camera straightened out." And I go, "Hey, Grace, you want to hop on a YouTube and let's talk
Yeah.
to Midway and Woodford County?" You said, "Yeah, man. Shoot me an email."
Yeah.
It's not like that in every city. You know what I
No,
mean?
it's not.
It's an
Right.
open mindset. I call
Yeah.
it, and we'll get into. I've got a few questions around. This is called Champion Mindset YouTube channel. So we'll talk a little bit about the mindset and kind of how you see, that piece at the end. But let's talk about bourbon, man. When
Oh,
you hear
okay. I love
Midway
talking about bourbon.
in Woodford County, Woodford County is the birthplace of bourbon. I mean,
Hmm.
that's what Woodford County's putting forward right now. I talked to Emily about that. I'm going to get Emily K. Downey in there, talk to her. Tremendous energy, very passionate about. She's all about Midway,
Oh yeah.
Versailles, Millville, none such. She doesn't want to miss anybody, right?
Brilliant. She's absolutely brilliant. Yep.
Yeah, and,
She
and
is.
you're and I know you're kind of a mentor to her. I know we won't tell
I
nobody,
don't
but
know about
no,
that,
no.
but
What she told me, you've really been somebody that's always reached out and been and taken a lot of interest in trying to be helpful to everyone in Versailles. So I think that's really cool that we have a Midway Versailles relationship. I think that's important. As we're doing this together. But when I asked her about bourbon, she said we're kind of the birthplace of bourbon. What do you when you hear bourbon, when you think of Midway? How does you see Midway tying into bourbon?
we have a deep distilling history. So
Okay.
if you could plop down in Midway in the 1940s, for example, there would be a section of town behind Brown Barrel down there near the park entrance. And those were distilleries back then.
Yep.
There's great stories about like one distillery caught on fire. That's not the great story, but the
Right.
story is the bourbon began spilling into the Lee's Branch, the little creek that runs right behind it.
Right.
And people were running down with their tin cups to get their whiskey, their free whiskey and water, but they were burning themselves because the creek was hot.
That is
So
that's amazing. They
great
were into it,
stories,
huh? That's
great
awesome.
stories like that. And so there was a rich distilling history. You know, I don't know, it must have hit a bust cycle, bourbon did in the 60s, because by the 1960s, those distilleries had dried up. So we are super excited that now they're fully opening, I think later this month. Bluegrass Distillers, you know, our first distillery in 60, 70 years was brought in by a task force that I had appointed back in 2017.
Okay.
They worked really hard to
Gotcha.
try and go. Their task was to go out and try and see if we can attract a brewery or a distillery, and they rightfully so honed in on distilleries first because of our historical tie-in.
Wow.
So after a few years, it turned out that they were able to get Sam Rock, a Versailles native.
I used to teach
Now,
Sammy tennis. I know Sam
did
Rock.
you?
Yeah. There you
So
go.
Sam,
So
yeah,
I read
another
about that in the
Woodford.
Woodford Sun now that you mentioned that. I'm linking
Yeah.
it all together now. Okay.
He had Bluegrass Distillers into Lexington, but they had run out of space, and this is a problem in Lexington where they're running out of
Yeah.
space, and they're, you know, Lexington hasn't really been
Right.
prepared for that. So Midway has profited from that. Frankly, we've gotten a lot of companies come from Lexington to
Right.
Midway Station. In this case, Bluegrass Distillers bought the old Elkwood farm,
Okay.
historic farm, antebellum time. There's a house there built from 1835 back
Okay.
there, and they've done amazing work. They've rehabbed that house as their tasting room and
Yeah.
visitor center, and it's built in 1835. It's got the most gorgeous spiral staircase.
That's
All the way.
beautiful. That's a beautiful area,
Gorgeous.
beautiful farm to do that with.
Yeah, they've built a distillery. They've got a rick house there. They're growing their own corn there for their blue maize bourbon. So we are super excited about it. They're sort of a talk about, you know, Midway. We love to connect the history, you know, the past to the future.
Right.
They're a perfect example of that happening, right? We got a brand new distillery. It's going to be great for downtown tourism.
Yep.
It's going to be great for Midway in general. They're great people with Woodford County roots. So I couldn't be more excited about Bluegrass Distillers. They have been just a delight to work with. So we're super excited for them, and they're kind of getting ready to do their full opening pretty soon. So we're
Well, I feel your passion coming through on the channel, man. I mean, that's exciting. So I'm
oh
excited
yeah,
to hear that. And it's great to be able to tie that back to the history of the bourbon. And now it's going to reignite. Bourbon's really exploded internationally. I know Japan and Europe, and they're all into bourbon, you know, and it's just something it's really exploded. So I think Woodford County and Midway will capitalize on all that, you know, which would be
oh
awesome.
yeah, oh yeah.
Let's jump into one more, you know, the railroad. I mean, when you hear the railroad in Midway, I mean, when you hear Midway, you think railroad, right? You
Yeah.
hear railroad, you think Midway. So
Yeah.
what do you feel? How do you feel? You know, I know we've got that rail. I see the train occasionally go through Midway, probably at least once a day. You know, and you can hear the whistle, and you know, you see the railroad ties come up, and you know, here comes the train. Everybody freezes for about a minute or two, and there it goes, right? But just the roots of Midway and the history of Midway and the railroad. How do you guys embrace that in Midway?
Oh yeah, we do. We really embrace being a train town, and some towns that have trains coming right through the middle do not embrace it. You know, there's some towns that have curfews on the trains. Not us. Look, first of all, you get used to that train coming through at 2 a.m. You sleep right through it. It's like
Yep.
it's like a purring kitten. It helps you sleep better.
Right.
So this was the first city in Kentucky founded by the railroad companies. You know, and
Yeah.
that's what's a cool thing about the history too, is, you know, railroads were still pretty in their infancy in the 1830s. And you think about it, they didn't go, you know, we didn't have a transcontinental railroad after the Civil War. So we were on the cutting edge of that too. We were laid out by the L&O Railroad. I think it was Louisville and Ohio is what it was called back
Yep.
then. And the streets closest to downtown are all named after people that are on their board of directors at that time.
Mhm.
And so we became, and there's some argument that we might have been the first railroad town in America. I don't think that can be confirmed, though. We certainly are the first railroad town in
You're
Kentucky.
Midway. You're midway between
Yep.
multiple
Yep.
cities, right? I know you got
Right.
Georgetown, you got Lexington, you got Frankfort, you got
Yep.
Versailles. I mean, you kind of go right through the center of everything.
They couldn't have named it any better, right?
Right.
Again, yeah, it's equidistant to those four cities. It was originally named for being a midway point between Lexington and Frankfort, but it just so happens to be right between Georgetown and Versailles too.
Yep.
Yeah, they wanted to have back then. That was such a vital passenger route that they wanted to have a stop between Lexington and Versailles. Lexington and Frankfort, and that's how Midway popped up. And it just kind of became this bustling community over time. And I mean, you kind of look at the history, there have been a little bit of ebbs and flows, but for the most part, Midway stayed really strong ever since it started. It just has been intentionally small, and we will stay intentionally small to honor those roots and what makes us special. But yeah, we embrace it, man. I mean, like so many towns I hear about in America are trying to get their railroads out of there. Not us. I mean, it's part of who we are. And you're right. My son's 8 years old. My daughter's 3. They're both fascinated by trains. I know 95-year-old men and women who are fascinated by trains. They're fascinating things to watch. Yeah. They're really cool, and they're kind of remind us of a cutting edge technology back in the 19th century. That's what they were. They were cutting edge technology.
They were. That's how America became America, with the railroads before we had automobiles. And
yeah, in many ways,
they were really early. So in the process,
the more modern version of this country was built on the railroad. So the fascinating thing, and we're proud to be part of it.
Yeah. In Woodford County, Versailles, they have the railroad that runs, down to Anderson County, and they've got the trolleys now where you can go and rent a trolley and go back and forth. And that one I don't think has an active train on it anymore. So they've been able to do that trolley ride down through there, which is kind of cool. So in the entire Woodford County, actually Versailles had a trolley that went through downtown Versailles, right in the center of the street. There was a trolley cable right in the middle of the road that went to Frankfort, to Lexington, to Harrisburg. It went all over Kentucky through Versailles, a trolley, train type thing. So it's kind of cool historically. But
I didn't know that.
Hey, when you hear race horses, I mean, Midway, I mean, they had some of the first Woodburn Farm, I believe it was, right?
Yeah.
Vicinity there. There was multiple Derby winners that were bred right there in Midway, and then Midway Road has had more Derby winners bred in that 7-mile radius, I believe, than any area of the country.
Yeah, maybe even in the world. It's phenomenal. So obviously that's another thing. Like, it's just like, that's why I feel so lucky to live here, to be the mayor here, because I mean, think about all the cool connections we have. This is the center of horse industry, right? And we are surrounded by beautiful rolling horse farms. And you're right, some of the greatest thoroughbreds that have ever lived have been born and bred here, been trained here. American Pharos just down the road in Versailles here. So during, like, for example, during Keeneland or during the Derby, downtown Midway, it's just like a little bit extra electric than it normally is, because you get all these people. Like, it just has such a beautiful tie into the horse industry. Obviously, if you go downtown on any night, you're going to see local farm workers down there having a beverage or having dinner or just hanging out, and it's always kind of been that way, right? And there have been points in Midway's history where the downtown, this is long before now, but the downtown was actually supported just by the local agricultural industry around it. But the horse industry is so huge for us. It probably brings in, just like bourbon, it brings in so many visitors for us. And people who want to go see those horse farms, they get hungry, they want a bite to eat. Midway's right down the road.
I'm going to go right to the next one, racehorses, and that's restaurants.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys got some of the best restaurants, I would say, in central Kentucky.
Blows my mind.
I'm telling you, man, they're really good. I mean, I go to Lexington and go out to, Jeff Ruby's, and I'm not knocking Jeff Ruby. It's good food.
That's great.
I go to Tony's and eat or whatever, or, and I'm thinking, I can't wait to get down to Gibson's or get down to Brown Barrel or get over to Goose and Gander or to get, I mean, it's all good,
They're great. And I mean, you have the different, this is what makes Midway feel big. Is that it's a small town, but you go downtown and you're like, there's like 5 or 6 world-class restaurants right here. I mean, Heirloom or Holly Hill Inn.
Oh, Heirloom's good too, and Holly Hill Inn. I miss Holly Hill Inn because it's kind of hidden back there.
Tucked away a little bit, part of their charm.
Miss it. I wouldn't bring it up, but it's probably one of the best. It's probably the most people who historically know about it, but it's like it's a huge opportunity for people to go try something that you might not have realized it's there.
Yeah, I agree, and it's and I'm not, for having previously had a restaurant, I'm not like the biggest foodie in the world, right. So like I'm more of a down home cooking
Right.
kind of guy.
Right.
But if you go to a place like Heirloom or Holly Hill, for example, you're going to taste food you just never really tasted before.
Yep.
But at the same time, you know, like you said, Brown Barrel and Gibson's and Goose and Gander, these are great. This is great food that's, you know, affordable, and it's just a great atmosphere to be in those places. I don't know if you
It's
ever see
unbelievable.
karaoke at
I
Gibson's, but
mean,
karaoke on Saturday night,
karaoke,
it's something you got
okay.
to
And
see.
you've had some karaoke down there in the basement of that Gibson
Yeah,
back in the day,
yeah.
and they still do karaoke down there.
Every
So
Saturday night, it's
yeah, it's
worth
pretty cool.
seeing once.
People
If
need to
nothing
come
else, it's
out
worth
there
seeing.
and see that from all over Woodford County and Fayette
So much
County
fun.
and in Scott County for sure. Hey, when just looking at this, the antique shops down there. I mean, I have to throw it out. I was in one of them this morning. I'm on vacation this week, so my wife and I went down to take a walk, and we ended up in one of those antique shops, and 2.5 hours went by, and we're like, "What the?" It's upstairs there in one of those across from the railroad pharmacy there, that
Huh?
pharmacy. And we
Yeah.
walked over there, and the lady goes, "We sell horse stuff down here, but if you go upstairs, we got an antique store up there." I got up there and I couldn't leave. I was there for two
Uh,
and a half hours. I mean,
there's so many treasures like that in downtown Midway where you can go in a shop and you're like, I didn't realize this was in here. And it's just we're just so blessed to have these restaurants, these shops, to have this heritage of a train town with all these great thoroughbred farms around us. It's just, you know, if you were trying to create the great small town in America, boy, it sure fell into place here. I think, you know, having all these things and they all just kind of work together, you know. And I love that you're on your vacation and you're stimulating our local economy
well,
instead of
I love
stimulating the
coming down. I
economy.
mean, I went
I
in
love
there.
it.
I went in the drugstore. I did use the restroom. I have to throw it out there. It's
That's all right.
that's one thing Midway could probably have is a separate. Yeah, but you guys are smart. You put them in the businesses, so you're going to go in there, then you're going to buy something, right? So I did. I
Yeah.
went in there and I ended up getting a Coke and a couple other things, and and I've been to the pharmacy a few times back there. They do a great job as well. But hey, when you hear Midway University, and I take so much pride in it because, I mean, for me to be on this call with you right now, I got to give it to Woodford County, Woodford County, all the entire school system for me. I went all through that. Then I went to Midway and got my 4 year, and then I went to K-State, and I did take some UK stuff too. But without Midway University, I kind of branded myself and grew there and developed and it'll always be in my heart, Midway University. I always say it's Midway College when I went there, and now it's Midway University. I'm good friends with Tim Culver. He's there. He kind of puts on a lot of the,
Yeah.
he drives a lot of energy into Midway with the
Does.
president and those guys. And I've been out there and toured it with the president, looked at all the facilities. I'm just going to tell you, man, hands down, it's the #1 university. I'm going to tell you, and I got a little bias coming in here, but in my mind, it's the #1 university. The way it's grown the last 5 to 10 years,
Yeah. It's
it's the
remarkable.
#1 co-ed. The way it came
Yeah.
together and added 20+ sports programs, men
Yeah.
and women.
It's remarkable. I mean,
Yeah,
and this all happened, like I said, in the last 10 years.
yeah.
It's really remarkable. Yeah, when I tell people we have a university in our town, they're like, wait, how big did you say the town was? And I'm saying, 1,800 people. And you have a university, you have all these restaurants, you have all this stuff. And it's like,
Yep.
the university, having places of higher education brings so much to a community. But this one is so special and that its history,
The
and by the way,
history.
my mom graduated from there in 1981. I think she was in their very first paralegal studies class.
Oh, that's
And
cool, man.
as
Yeah.
her career as a paralegal began
Okay.
there. And my wife Katie graduated in 2012 from Midway University
Oh, neat.
in the equine program. Although she got into economic development later on, but turned out to be allergic to horses. But she got her degree from there.
Good.
But so I near and dear to my heart. They're great people that there's always that town gown mix can be a really great thing when cities do it right. And I think we do it right. And I think they do it right. And they've got for the first time ever over 2,000 students now. But
Yeah, they
when you
had
count them
record
all together,
enrollment this
yeah,
year. Like,
yeah.
yeah. And they
Haven't
have a
raised
baseball
tuition,
field.
and
Yeah.
they haven't raised tuition. They got a brand new football field. I was
Yeah.
at their first home game against Bellarmine. They came up short, but it was really exciting. The stands were packed,
Yeah, that's
and
awesome.
and we got to get more. I want to get more locals going to these sporting events.
Yep.
I need to do it myself, but I
Yep. I
want to
need to
put
get
more
out
stuff
there
out
because
there.
I wanted to go to all the basketball games because I played basketball and track, cross country. They do all that.
It-
Soccer. They have a wrestling program. They
Yep.
got they've got tennis program. I know Coach Adam Malik. I helped. I was one of the guys he called when he wanted to get out there, and kind of recommended him, but he got the job on his own merits. He was All-American in the UK, great tennis
Oh,
player
wow.
from Malaysia. He beat Jimmy Connors when he was 17 years old.
Amazing.
So dude can play, but
Gosh.
he's Midway's coach, right?
Isn't that crazy? It's
So
cool. It's so
yeah, it's
cool. I
cool,
know
man. But
what they've
yeah,
put together
so
is amazing.
Midway, is special to all of us, and I can see the impact it's had on you, with your wife and your mother, and the fact you're right there in the middle of it all and taking a lot of pride in it with right along with them. So that's awesome. You got many older churches in this community. I mean, I can go all night. We'll back down here after the church thing, but when I look at this, it's something about it, man. You go out there on Sunday and start taking a walk, and you hear the bells going off, and I mean, it's like you just want to, it just brightens your day, And I walk
Yeah.
around all the denominations,
Amazing.
I mean, you've
Yeah.
got, you've got historical blend of African American churches, Episcopal, Christ church, just so many of them, right? And
Yeah.
they take so much pride in them. Everyone wants to go to everybody else's church to see, meet everybody, see everybody, and I know a lot of kids I went to school with. It gave them a foundation that's still driving them today. I mean, I can
Oh,
see
yeah.
that Midway piece that they picked up,
Yeah.
everybody, and it just kind of a bond. Very proud of that, and
I think it's a beautiful thing. And, we have a church for about every 150 people, we have a church in town. So we have 11 churches in town.
was it 11? I knew you had a
Yeah.
bunch.
And number 12 is being built right now out at the Midway station where they're building a daycare and a church there.
Oh, nice.
So very proud of that. Look, I mean, I think, regardless of anybody's religious beliefs, I think so much of our moral grounding comes from that, right? And who we are spiritually is very, very important to the core of who we are. And what's so cool is, like you said, there's so many different denominations. So, if this denomination isn't for you or that one isn't for you, and, not that everybody wants to go to one of these churches, but just for us in Midway, it's amazing. Like you said, some of the most beautiful architecture in town.
Yeah, that's what really fascinates me, is going, look at the church architecture. Now I'm going to take you one more step into the residential architecture. When I start looking at the homes out there, I just get blown away by the individual identity of every house.
Yeah.
Not one house is the same in Midway. I mean,
No.
go to Florida. I'm amazed when I go down to old Florida and I see all them homes, and I go to Midway. It's like, where's the beach at? Because it's got the same thing. It's got like, you're liable to see anything, and it works for it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? They take a lot of pride in each of them homes. All things. Yep. And when a house comes up for sale, it don't come up. I mean, somebody already bought it before it sells. So if I want a house in Midway, I pretty much got to go start buying the house before the house gets sold. It's just that's the demand for houses in Midway, right?
That high. It's that high, and it's showing in our property valuations too, which can be a good thing or a bad thing depending on how you look at that. But yeah, and again, going back, we talked about the pride earlier, right? I mean, you can just see the people who built these homes, some of these historic homes, they clearly saw this as a special place, and they put in a special effort to build these amazing structures that are still standing today. And even then, some of the newer homes built here, like you said, they just have this unique character to them. You can see why people come from outside Midway just to walk here. And that's a real phenomenon that happens. People come in the evenings, and I see them sometimes, and they're trying to figure out who they are. Yeah, because it's a beautiful place to walk.
We love walking in Midway. You can take a golf cart, retirement. If you want to retire and be in a beautiful setting where you can go anywhere in a golf cart, Midway it supports you. You can get a golf cart out, no problem, and go anywhere. I see them
safe. Yeah, it's a safe community where we take pride in making it as walkable as we can. We've done sidewalk programs in the last several years in the city, trying to fix up old broken sidewalks so people don't trip. I mean, because people really love just walking here, whether it's people who live here, but like I said, there are others like you, Ty, who just come over just to walk here at night.
Absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
Hey, speaking of everything we talked about, where do you see Midway in 10 years in your mind? I mean, I know that's way out there, but kind of what do you see? What do you see? And I know modernization and changing, there's a lot of people that, hey, we don't want to change. So you're kind of in the middle of a situation where you have to balance because, we got more people coming in. If you look at Versailles Road from Midway to out, when you hit the interstate, you know how busy that interstate's gotten. I don't know, but I'm sure they have something that reads the number of cars.
Yeah.
When you go to Woodford County, just being a guy that grew up here, I've been here 60 of my 65 years. And when I look at Woodford County, like when I'm coming home today, man, US 60, it's not the Woodford County we had, you know,
Right.
20 years ago. And I don't expect it to be, but I
Right.
see a lot of growth. And a lot of it is not anything Woodford County can do about because it's coming from all these other counties, right?
Yeah,
But
sure.
I think Kentucky's a magnet for growth because a lot of people are leaving. Let's be honest, they were going to Florida. It seems like in the last month, I'm hearing there's people leaving Florida. And so,
California, the same way, right?
yeah,
And it's a
people are
lot
leaving
cheaper to,
California. They're leaving New York. They want to get in an area where they can send their kids to school. They like the community. So one thing I see, not just Midway, but it's going to be Scott County. It's going to be, Mercer County. It's going to be a lot of counties, Anderson County, Shelby County. Everyone has an influx of growth, right? And
yep.
some of that's going to happen. I think you guys have a good strategy and plan probably to kind of slowly adapt it. What are your thoughts?
So the good news we have, I think Midway citizens will be happy to hear this if they're listening. The good news is that our we went through a growth spurt, and that growth spurt's now over. And so what I mean by that is just our industrial growth at Midway Station. Because think about when I answer the question, well, what might we look like in 10 years? Well, think about what we looked like 10 years ago.
That's good.
Really, we looked pretty much the same downtown.
Right.
The difference was that industrial park was empty and was a bit of a financial burden because it hadn't been developed. Now that we've gotten that, we've given ourselves extra revenue that we can start maintaining these things, maintaining these roads, maintaining these sidewalks, parks. We've made a lot of park improvements. We've done things like build a beautiful pavilion at the cemetery for burials so that if it's a rainy day,
that, man. That cemetery, that's where I'm going to be buried. So I've already,
same here.
A lot of people don't like talking about it, but I'm a Versailles boy, but I'm a Midway boy too. I went to school there, but I catch myself out there and I just think that is the most beautiful cemetery in Woodford County. I'm just going to be honest with you. I love the two cemeteries in Versailles, but in my mind, that thing out there, it's at a high level, man. I mean, maybe from the standpoint of the way it's maintenance. I mean, they do a great job in Versailles. I'm not trying to compare them or anything.
Oh,
but the beauty and the history of that thing out there, it attracts me,
We take so much pride in it. Our city employees take so much pride in it. It's a beautiful cemetery. You
got a lot of expansion ability out there. It looks like you've got some extra land.
We will expand on that extra land once those plots are all sold, which they probably will be within the next 5 or 6 years, unfortunately, but that's life. That's the way things go, right? But so as far as I don't see us having a ton of growth the next 10 years. I really don't. I think we're going to be, that industrial park has really become along with Midway University, along with the school, along with the downtown restaurants, that's become our economic engine. And I think it's put us on a path to be financially stable for years to come. We're making some of the biggest investments ever right now in Midway. I mean, we are investing in a new Midway fire and EMS station that's going to bring a brand new state-of-the-art facility, not only to our firefighters, but it's going to allow for the first time ever to have 24-hour ambulance presence in Midway. Because up until now, in the middle of the night, an ambulance is coming from the other side of Versailles, right? And when those seconds count, they count.
And
so
especially for a heart attack patient or a stroke patient. I mean, I work in the pharmaceutical industry, and I'm engaged in those pathways with patients. And I know we got a great hospital in Versailles, but when it comes to actually doing an intervention for a cardiac event where you got to open an artery up, you got to get them to UK, or you got to get them to Baptist, or you got to get them to St. Joe. We don't have that.
Right, and so it's so critical to get to them quickly with an EMT that can at least stabilize them until they get there.
And they can start working on them in the EMS and
that's right.
Look at their vitals, and they can do an EKG right there right there.
Oh, it's amazing.
And see, if they've got a blocked artery typically, and then they can get them in and have people door to balloon time less than 30 minutes in most of these facilities. So it's good you guys are thinking that way, because you are out there to where it might take them 20, 25 minutes, 30 minutes to get to the door, right? So
think about this, Tyrone. This is a scary thought. This is why I'm so proud we're doing this project. And it's expensive, don't get me wrong, but it's a big, important investment. We remember back in Memorial Day this year, there was a big storm came through. And at one point that day, every road to Midway from Versailles was currently blocked by tree limbs down.
Yeah, you can't get a heart attack patient to that direction at that point.
Right. This is why we're doing what we're doing. We're going to have an ambulance in Midway at all times. And that'll help serve Millville. Davistown. It's not just for Midway. I mean, it
No,
really helps
yeah,
everybody
because
on
I
this
just
end.
bought a house over off of Steel Road, another
Mhm.
house. I've remodeled it.
Yeah.
And so I'm kind of like, I take the back roads on Steel Road into
Mhm.
Old Frankfurt Pike and come into Midway that way when I'm over there.
Sure.
I wouldn't go all the way to Versailles to go to Midway. I just do the back road, right?
Right, exactly.
And
So,
it,
you know, we're doing that. We're investing in some things that'll eventually hook. In May, we're going to switch over to the Frankfurt Plant Board's water. We're going to leave Kentucky American. We just think it's a better deal for us
well,
as a small town. We're going to end up saving a lot of money on our water rates over time once that infrastructure is paid off. And I think people's rates in Midway will actually go down a little bit even with the switch. So making major investments, and that's what happens when you bring in new revenue. But we're going to have to continue to keep our eye on the ball. We're going to have to
yeah.
continue to check our growth. We're going to have to continue to still be fiscally responsible. We just can't, we can't spend money like it's there forever. I mean, we have to be
Right.
fiscally responsible too, and we will be. So 10 years from now, I'll be honest with you. I mean, there will be some new exciting changes. I don't think it's going to be any. I don't see any massive neighborhoods coming in. I don't see any more massive industrial growth coming in. I really think we've got what I think what was got us can set us for the next 50 years. I think what it is maintaining, continuing to beautify, continuing to make those little additions that make life a little bit better. I think that's what we see in the next 10 years, hopefully.
Well, I mean, I tell you, Grayson, I feel like Midway's in great hands right now. Leadership is phenomenal. I really enjoyed engaging with you tonight. I got 5 little quick tidbits I'm going to throw out at you,
Okay.
and this is part of champion mindset, growth mindset, unlimited mindset, right?
Love it.
So
Love it.
with that mindset, that's what you guys are doing in the community, though, really helping everyone get a broad vision and engage everyone in what we can do to get a little bit better every day, right? So when
Yeah.
you hear the word fixed mindset, what pops into your mind when you hear the word fixed mindset?
So people that aren't planning on going anywhere, and I mean that, and not in a positive way, right? Change is going to happen, and the quicker we embrace it, the quicker we grab onto the future. If you ask me,
Absolutely. What about growth mindset? It kind of ties into it's
I
almost
think
like
I love this. I love the way you think because I'm very similar in this thing. I think it's if it, Bob Dylan once said, "He not busy being born is busy dying." And I like to live by that, is that the idea is that if we are not continually growing, if we are not continually improving, if we're not continually becoming better versions of ourselves, then what are we really doing in this life? We only do it one time. So I'm big on improvement. To me, if you're doing nothing but just trying to improve every day, you're doing a heck of a lot. So when I think growth mindset, it's about that idea that I'm never quite there. There's
yep.
always a little bit more.
We can
There's a
always get
next
better,
level I
man.
can get to.
That's what's
Yep,
got me
absolutely.
doing the YouTube channel because it's helping me to
Love
drive
it.
me to get a little better because I'm tapping into you guys and trying to take a little bit to give it to somebody to help others. You know what I'm saying? It's about what can we give back to the community, right? And
What
that's what I love
fascinates me
about it.
about that too is that this is the last thing I'll say about this one. I don't want to cut you off, but the if you ask a world class athlete,
Yep.
if you ask a world class guitarist or a pianist or just somebody who is at the top of their game, a major CEO, if you ask them, what are you doing to get better at your craft? I bet you to a person, they're going to give you 10, 15 things, a laundry list of things they're doing to get
Yep.
better. If you ask the average person out there on the street that's just, they're getting by, and you ask them, what are you doing to get better? Most of those folks, in my opinion, will say, nothing. I'm getting by. I'm doing fine. And my point is not, I don't mean that like
Great.
financially,
No, no.
but I mean like in the
Well,
things you love and the things that you are.
it could be, your strength, your nutrition, your
Yeah,
spirit. There's
right.
so many things, man. To your point, I always looked at it this way. How many days do we have in a year? 365 days. And I always said, growing up, if every day I can get just a little bit better, I'm gonna get, I'm trying to get a little better with YouTube. I'm trying to get a little better with LinkedIn, trying to get a little better with Facebook, a little better
Yeah,
with Instagram. I love digital stuff.
yeah,
I'm a nerd with that stuff, but I'm an athlete. So I want to get a little better. When I go to the gym, I want to, my stamina, I want a little better. I want to get a little bit more leaner. I want to be a little bit, I want to read another book. To me, I'm not going to get bored because I'm too excited about trying to get a little bit better, right? I mean,
right. Right.
and then, but I don't want it just for me. I want to be able to, hand it off, be able to encourage, engage, support, and I just feel that it's like a boomerang, Grayson, and I feel that with you. You throw it out there, and it's not like you're looking to get anything necessarily because you just want to support, help, and things come back, to where you can get more to help others with, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
and I always look at, all boats get lifted, in a community if we're all trying to look out and help support each other. And that's what I'm so excited about in Woodford County. and of course, Midway and Versailles is that I sense that in our leaders, and I'm just thrilled to have you on here tonight. Hey, when you hear the word teamwork, and this is something that, some people may say, oh man, that's so common. What are you talking about, Ty? When you hear the word teamwork in your mind, it takes more than one. Would you agree?
Oh yeah, human beings are so much better when they collaborate. And if you look throughout human history, look at all the great things we've done: pyramids that have been built, cities that have been constructed, medicines that have saved millions and billions of lives, even over time. It's because of collaboration. It's
Right.
because it. And what's ironic to me, and I didn't get this when I was younger, Ty, I don't think I thought team set minded as much when I was younger. But as I get older, I realize if you actually want to propel yourself as an individual, play for the team,
Yeah.
because great individuals tend to lie within great teams. We're
Yeah.
the reason why we're talking about Patrick Mahomes all the time and not Joe Burrow is Patrick Mahomes got those rings, man.
He does, man.
You propel the team, you propel
It
yourself.
is. I
Yeah,
mean, you're only as good as everybody around you. And
exactly right.
I mean, I'm in a pharmaceutical gig, and I've been in it for 25 years at different levels. And I can tell you, I'm only as good as my team, brother. I mean,
Right.
and they do it all. I lift, I encourage, I support, I promote, I do all that. But I'm always looking for A players. And I want to develop my A players too, right? I want everybody
Yeah.
to get a little better every day. So,
Yep.
and that's exactly, in a community, knowing to have an open door and get your A players in there, they're going to lift the community, right? I mean,
Oh,
that's
yeah.
important. I mean, and it takes, like you said, growth mindset is going to take more than one mind, and you got to kind of work together to kind of lift up everybody, everything, and that's the exciting part of it.
It's why we've been very intentional about encouraging volunteerism in Midway, and so many of our improvements, all those major improvements to Walter Bradley Park, they
Yeah.
don't happen without
I love that
volunteers.
park, man. It
Yeah,
overlooks Midway campus. You got that walkway. You got those rocks to sit on. You got chair. It's just set up so butterflies, birds. I mean, you got
amazing.
everything out there. It's beautiful. Yeah.
All a team effort. All a
Yeah.
team
Yeah.
effort. So when we collaborate, we just get more done.
Hey, the last question, and then I want to thank you again for being on tonight. And
I've loved it. I've had a
this is
great time.
looking at other leaders out there. Um, people that want to get in leadership, or they're thinking about it, or maybe they're going to put their toe in it, not sure if they're going to take that risk, what in your mind, what would be three keys to be able to get someone should think about when they're going into leadership? Three things they need to kind of just be aware of, work on. You're always going to get tested, that kind of thing. What do you think? Maybe two or three things in your mind, what might those be?
Don't get into it to be loved. I
Yeah.
think that can be very enticing. Well, I want people to love me, and here's a great way to do it.
Yeah.
Not always going to be a great way to make not everyone's going to love you. First of all, there's not.
No.
And you're not going to please everybody. I think would be the second thing, is that if you're just out there to say, well, what can I do that'll make everybody happy? I can promise you're not going to do very much, frankly.
Yeah.
And then I think the third thing is that you have, while you have to believe in yourself, you also have to be willing to listen to other people. I think every successful leader tends to have that in common, is that they are good listeners. And they are the last one to speak in the room sometimes. And that's something I need to get better at sometimes, frankly, is let everybody else talk. Don't color the conversation yet with what I have to say. Let everybody else talk, and then I'll be the last one to talk, kind of thing. And I'm trying to get better at that
I'm
idea.
working on that too, Grayson. I'm
It's
working
hard.
hard
It's
on
hard to
it.
do.
It's hard.
Yeah,
Yeah, it
we're
is.
passionate guys,
Yep.
so one of the things I'm always working on is becoming a better listener. I just think the better you listen, the better you lead.
Well, it's been a real pleasure tonight to have you
Loved
on.
it.
And hey, let's do it again, maybe in another few months or something. See
Sure.
what updates, anything. Just check in with the community. I just want to thank you for your time and for your passion, and for everything you're doing for Midway and Woodford County. And wish you a very successful 2024.
Thanks, Ty. Same to you. I really had a great time. Appreciate it.
All right, brother. You take care of yourself, and we'll see you soon.
All righty.